All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Young with Optrics Engineering, and I have with me Sean Sturber, your Technical Services Manager, and this is another edition of the Optrics Insider. So today we have three updates. First one is a Windows update you should consider avoiding. Microsoft and U.S. Cyber Command are trying to take down a TrickBot, and if you have a NAS in your office, or as part of your network, the NAS vendors suggest that you should update the firmware to them because they might be affected by Microsoft's ZeroLogin vulnerability. So, Sean, oh, and I wanted to point out that's quite the server room you have behind you. Where is that?
It's actually the server room that they use at the Large Hadron Collider for CERN.
Cool. Okay, so this is not ours, just to be clear, but wow,
Very
that's a lot of,
impressive.
yeah, very impressive server room at CERN. Okay, so let's talk about the Windows update you should avoid.
Okay, so Microsoft rolls out patches every month, October 13th. So this month, just a little under 2 weeks ago, they rolled out a patch, and it's called Knowledge Base, or KB 4579311.
Okay.
And it's causing all sorts of issues. The biggest issue is that a lot of people are reporting that they can't even get the patch installed. Those that are installing it are experiencing problems on boot up, performance issues, their desktop restarts. And in this case, this one is designed to fix a remote code execution vulnerability in the Windows version 6, TCP/IP version 6 stack. So most people aren't using TCP/IP version 6. We're still on the TCP/IP version 4 behind some sort of a router. So it's probably not going to affect a lot of people at home, but a lot of corporations and people who are on cellular connections. They might be on a TCP/IPv6 connection.
So your recommendation is to not do the update just now. Let them fix it before you do it.
Right. That's if you haven't installed it already. Wait for the update. It's only been out for 2 weeks. It is, they consider critical because it is remotely exploitable. If you are on a network that somebody can push out a IPv6 router advertisement packet that's malformed, they could take over your computer. But Microsoft typically gets notices about these kinds of problems, or they watch for them, and within a couple, 3 weeks of them getting the notices, they will come out with an updated update. So
An updated update. Okay.
yeah, an updated update. If you have installed it, you can uninstall it. And then the recommendation is that, it might be caused by an old driver or an outdated firmware. So, update your BIOS, update your drivers, check your video cards, check your sound cards, check anything that you've got plugged in. Maybe unplug everything briefly, so you just have the bare minimum needed to run your computer.
So as a general, speaking of just patches, because this isn't patches causing issues with your desktop. This isn't new. This isn't the first time it's happened. So generally speaking, it would make sense to try the update on not a mission critical computer first, see how it reacts. Perhaps you have a development server or just something you can test the patch on first before you put it out into production. That's generally what you recommend.
Yes. Now for a home user where they've got 3 or 4 different computers, all different,
Right.
the fact that it's successfully installed on one system doesn't mean that it's going to successfully install on the other systems, because there's hardware is all different.
Sure.
In a corporate environment, quite often you can standardize and say we are only going to run these 3 flavors of desktop, workstation, and laptop, and keep them up to date. So there, if you do install and it's successful on a subset of a population, you should be good.
Excellent. So a tool like Manage Engine Desktop Central, which is one that we use to patch all of our corporate computers, would it pick up to pause something like that when there's a known issue with the update?
No, the best practice for a tool like that is that you want to scan and see what patches are applicable in your environment, but don't apply them right away.
Right.
And you can do a test and try type situation where you pick a guinea pig group, you apply the patch on them, and if it successfully applies, then that patch can be approved for the general population or the larger group.
Gotcha.
That's pretty
Okay.
typical.
Good. I would imagine if you're an IT person watching this, you have a patch routine or a process, standard operating procedure that you follow, but it's certainly worth reminding ourselves that some patches do fail, and so you have to work around them. Okay, so let's move on. So Microsoft and U.S. Cyber Command are trying to take down, or tried to take down, a TrickBot. So what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so the TrickBot malware botnet is one of the largest out there. At this point, they say that it's infected over 1 million. The Have I Been Pwned website says that TrickBot has managed to capture about 7 million different credentials. And so both the US Cyber Command and Microsoft are trying to stop it. It is one of the most prolific malware as a service. Here's another as a service for you. In Microsoft's case, they actually analyzed over 60,000 different samples, and they were able to figure out where the command and control servers for this botnet were. They then obtained a court order allowing them to shut off either the servers or access to the servers. But unfortunately, the TrickBot operators have built a robust backend and were able to reclaim access to their bots, or the infected computers, within about a half a day. So it's great that they tried, and we really hope that they can do more. Microsoft does have a safety scanner. So Microsoft, of course, is got this wonderful security center. They are seeing a lot of information from a lot of their clients. And so they're able to say, oh, here's the most prolific malware out there. And they build a safety scanner that is specific to that. Doesn't replace running regular antivirus or anti-malware software, but we're going to include the link to it because you can always run a second check. Yeah? Doctor says that you've got cancer, you go and you get a second opinion. This is the same idea.
Cool. Okay. Excellent. And finally, for those of you who have a NAS or a network attached storage device in your network, the NAS vendors recommend that you update the firmware to it. QNAP would be one, Drobo, I guess, and Dell has them, and I'm sure HP does as well. So make sure you update the firmware because you're open to potentially to the Microsoft ZeroLogin vulnerability. So what can you tell me about that?
We've talked about this before when Microsoft put out that ZeroLogin, and we said that anybody who is running a NAS, if they are running Samba, they might be vulnerable to it. Well, now it's been confirmed. I've received notices personally from QNAP and Synology saying make sure that you update your firmware. In the case of QNAP, they specifically said if you have things set up in this way, you might be vulnerable to the same bug in Windows, which is the ZeroLogin, which would allow somebody on the network to just take over and reset passwords that have administrative access. Synology's notice was more along the lines of, we put out these updates 3 or 4 times a year. It would be very important to apply them. So.
Yeah, just lots of, it seems like everything needs to be updated constantly just because hackers are always trying to find different ways to get in. Even, and one that you probably wouldn't think of are printers, because those generally are devices on your network that don't get much attention because they just print, and you wouldn't think to update those. So just a friendly reminder to update that as well. Okay, so anything else you wanted to add, Sean?
That's it for this week.
Okay, so just to recap here, there is a Windows update that came out this month that you should avoid just because it's causing problems with computers. Microsoft and the U.S. Cyber Command are actively trying to take down a TrickBot, although the TrickBot owners or found a way to get back access to it. And if you are running a network attached storage or a NAS, make sure that you update the firmware, because you could be vulnerable to the Microsoft ZeroLogin vulnerability. All right. Thank you. So as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thanks. And thanks, Sean. We will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.